patch 1.17. Finally! Hurricane map condition, 2 new arc enemies, weapon balancing, damn Battlegrounds is changing, a new project, the expedition. No. Now Arc Raiders is playable again. Hello then, my fellow raiders, and welcome to Shrouded Sky. By far the juiciest update of the year. Not that there's been many and not that there's been much competition, but still, this is very exciting. We have then a new major condition in the hurricane, and it is quite the potent one. Not only do you have your shields constantly ripped away, but the visibility really is just abysmal. And thankfully we get a load of extra exposed raider caches as a reward, but that does come guarded by full-on new arc who are hiding in the storm, and it's very, very cool to see. Those new arc then being the firefly and the comet, essentially super fast, super outdoor pop and flying burner. The firefly as a flying burner really is quite severe. I was instantly roasted while searching for one to have a look for you guys literally right now, and they are actually a lot visually distinct, very armored, and the damage is as you'd expect from a burner modeled arc. It just is fantastic to have actual new arc. I really thought new arc threat was going to be there's shredders inside on some other maps now, so getting new arc and 2 of them, even if they are at least themed on some existing arc, is a really nice thing, and having them as part of this storm where you can't see anything gives them that extra little bit of gravitas. Of course, we'll be giving them a proper little test as well as this entire update and bringing you a detailed guide soon, but for now, yeah, there's a lot of good things happening here. Then we have the weathering monitoring project added to the game. This you can find in your usual project location, and it looks a little something like this. A classic deliver the things and get the rewards experience, and the rewards are very tasty. If we commit our ally, our parts, and so on to get this first reward going down, well, that's very nice, some good little healing. And then we have the new arc parts from our 2 new arcs immediately go into stage 2, as you would expect, and we'll be with you with the rewards for all of the stages very soon. In any case, this is another lovely thing to be working on, especially encouraging the hunting of the new arc. And yes, the most important part of any update ever, the facial hair, which is very amusing, but hey, more customization certainly isn't a bad thing. And then a new high security area in damn Battlegrounds, the control access zone full of high value loot. This is very neat, and something that we'll be giving a deep dive on very soon. Needless to say, the overarching cliff notes are juicy. But talking of juicy notes, the actual patch notes are now here, and that's the main thing that I want to go over today. And yes, weapon balancing for Sticher, Kettle, Venator, Jupiter, and the Aphelion. That's quite a big deal. As is, of course, getting a piano to interact with in the overworld, which I think we can all agree we've been desperately wanting. We have PvP feats removed, which is certainly an interesting choice. I mean, it is kind of weird to have just one single bit of PvP encouraged in one single place in the whole game, so consistency-wise this does make sense, but I don't think it was like a huge deal. I suppose for those of us that want to remain in low aggression, but getting those as feats kind of goes against it, so I can see why that's been a thing. Remove that kind of awkward forced choice. And hey, now we can reroll our feats anyway, so it's even better. Mines, traps, remote flares cannot be placed on other deployables, which is a shame because it allowed for some shenanigans, but it also allowed for some way too much shenanigans. The same with zip lines on carryable objects. So, to the balance changes. We did have the whole fire rate debacle of it getting worse, then getting better, then getting changed once again, and now we're finally getting some balance to the lower tier weapons. And indeed, they do want to keep some of the kill expression of the rapid clicking without just making it the kind of workaround for every gun that it's applicable to, which is definitely a good thing. There was certainly a little bit of cheese when it comes to the weapons. Sticher then. The Sticher has played its role well as a close quarters weapon that rewards thoughtful positioning, but we found that its fast time to kill can sometimes lead to situations where you're ambushed and killed before you have time to react. As when you pointed out, the headshot damage is a large contributor to this problem. Essentially then, the Sticher is just getting a fair amount weaker. The headshot multiplier, which was 2.5, which is already kind of ridiculous, is down to 1.75, which is a hefty nerf, but the base damage itself going down by half a point, with how fast it fires, that adds up. Not to mention the dispersion going up by 50% is also going to really hurt that spray down. This is quite the severe little knock for the Sticher, which honestly isn't a bad thing. Having just this basic grey weapon you can infinitely use be such a deadly threat, even compared to the higher tier stuff, kind of wasn't ideal for the game. You want to feel rewarded for actually putting in the resource cost of a higher tier weapon, and this will support that. We'll see how it actually works out in practice, but it's nice to see Sticher changes finally happen. The kettle then, has been in a weird place, and bringing it close, using it as that SMG. Of course, we had the whole macro clicking thing on it that thankfully was addressed, and indeed the base damage of it has been reduced, so we get a lower time to kill on it, but the high headshot multiplier is staying, so we can still get a little bit of a skill expression on it without it just being kind of close range blast down from as fast as you can click. Then we have the Venator. This has always been a talked about weapon, and now it's getting again a little bit of a knock. 2.5 down to 2 on the headshot multiplier is a fairly big difference, and taking the bullet damage down to 8 from 9 while only 1 on paper is also quite a big difference with how the Venator fires. So this then is quite nice to see, though it's still weird that it doesn't consume bullets the way the weapon actually says it should consume bullets. But they say they will look into that if this still makes it one of the best performing weapons in PvP, and they do have data to support that, so it is nice to know they are looking at the weapons that are causing the most stir and are willing to change them, even if it's happened a little bit slower than we were expecting. Then again, we have the Jupiter. Legendary weapon changes are always interesting. The Jupiter does more headshot damage in the game. It's quite difficult to hit headshots with it. I mean, yes, that's definitely very true. So it's now getting a faster ADS magnification time. We get to equip it faster and de-equip it faster. Basically, we can just swap to it, zoom in, and fire with a little bit more efficiency to maybe get a little bit more use out of it in PvP, but ultimately, this isn't really the craziest change in the world, but it does help nicely for just quickly swapping to it, zooming in, and like one-shot tapping a random wasp that's sort of mid-distance and approaching you, so it does help it on the arc front too. The Aphelion then is very interesting. So they weren't happy with the balance of the Aphelion, and it was intended to be a more PvP-focused legendary weapon, and they have talked about that, and they've talked about the possibility of future, more literally dedicated PvP weapons. And the changes to it are quite nice. The reload time losing a second is big. The time between shots going down by 0.2, that's nearly 20%, is very big. And the recoil and ADS speed, again, is just nice to have the whole gun more controllable. So, in all honesty, this, as much as it destroys arc, because it is, a legendary energy weapon, will make it a little bit more of a usable gun in PvP. We always said the Aphelion was the legendary weapon you bring if you just want to have one weapon for both arc and players, and it has to be legendary, but that's kind of a niche role, so we'll see what this does to it. Energy clip ammo being available by default in the workbench is very nice, and then we have some interesting nerfs. The deadline being even more expensive to buy, and therefore more expensive to sell, and we've got a new arc pad as part of its crafting cost. So it's going to, for those with the blueprint, take a little bit more work, and for those without, take a little bit more money. It is still ridiculously powerful, so yeah, this is to be expected. Trailblazer has gotten pretty much the same treatment, new arc part for the crafting cost, and the value is gone up to 6,600. People were getting a lot of value out of it, especially on farming big arc, but it did get that little bit of a nerf recently, so it's interesting to still see this happen. Wolfpack getting a cost/craft nerf is really curious to see. They were incredibly efficient to craft if you had the blueprint, so a rocketeer driver does make it certainly a less just kind of infinitely produce and spam them, and then they're just slightly more valuable because of that. Vita Spray gets a tick pod to its crafting cost. They were also very efficient healing, so this makes them just slightly less spam outable, though I don't think the Vita Spray was that big of a deal. And then the Showstopper actually getting a value decrease, but gaining Hornet Driver as a crafting cost. Generally, it just seems like arc parts are going more into the big kind of main throwable explosives that are on the more powerful end, and, you know, that's nice thematically, more reason to actually hunt the big arc. Then that takes us into various bug fixes, and there is a lot of them. Some of them very nice to see, some of them the kind of bug fixes where you're like, I didn't even know that was a bug that needed fixing, but hey, that's nice that it's been fixed. A lot of them with the arc, like, you know, sentinel shots passing through geometry, which is something we never want to see happen, and then of course something very important like updating the guitar music tracks, which I think we all desperately needed to see addressed. We've got new cosmetics, the Velar set, the surgeon set, and then we've got devotee coming soon, the facial hair stuff, and then a lot of outfits have just been cleaned up. Always good to see detail like that actually happening. We've got the piano, as we talked about, and then a few more gameplay changes. Like this one, which is quite nice just from a quality of life perspective, to be able to do that even if your stash is completely overflowing. Then we've had Buried City Bird Nest to have a rare loot slight nerf, which it was a ridiculously good source of stuff, so that isn't the most shocking thing to see, but it is certainly a little bit of a shame. And then getting collision issues in Stella Montis is always a good thing to see. Any out of bounds issue getting fixed is also really nice as well. And then we've got some movement progression quests, etc, etc. The re-rolling feats that we already talked about, the PvP ones going, candleberries counting towards harvest plants is nice because, you know, they're plants that you harvest. And then the rest aren't exactly the most crazy ones in the world, just nice polish, quality of life, and just general fixes that need fixing. Though I do like the idea of being able to roll pop triggers forward and use them from your quick slots in doing so, as well as the spotter relay being a lure arc trap, which is also a nice little use for it. Then we get to have a look at some known issues that they are aware of that will likely get fixed in future updates, which is always a nice thing to have communicated to us just to know what we can actually expect or not in the community. And then another little note on the anti-cheat, and that this is still going on, there's going to keep being tweaks, and things are very much progressing on that front. So there we have it then, a lot of new content in game, new map area on damn Battlegrounds, a new major map condition with 2 new arc inside of it, some long awaited gun changes, a fairly hefty set of patch notes, a new project. Basically, yeah, February in Arc Raiders is looking very, very good, and it makes, well, March and April look even more exciting, because now we know new arc threat can literally be new arc, and then April gives us a new large arc, which is going to be really, really cool to see. In any case then, good luck in the hurricane. Let me know what you guys think of these changes and patch notes, and look out to a proper in-depth, in-game, deep test and guide to everything coming very soon. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.